In the middle of the Mediterranean, waves were swallowing Roman ships one by one. Legions were invincible on land, but at sea they were helpless. Facing them was an enemy that fought not with swords, but with wind: Carthage. Fast ships, flawless maneuvers, years of maritime experience. If Rome lost this war at sea, it would lose everything it had won on land. And the Romans realized something they knew very well. They could not learn the sea, but they could change it. They built a bridge onto a ship, made not just from wood and iron, but from a rule-breaking idea. The moment that bridge dropped, naval warfare ended and a land battle began. This was not an ordinary weapon. This was the moment Rome tricked the sea. So how did the Romans, knowing nothing about the sea, change the fate of the Mediterranean? And why did this invention, called the Corvus, become one of history's most dangerous weapons? If you're curious about how Rome turned the sea into a weapon, don't forget to like and subscribe. Do you think Rome won the Mediterranean with intelligence or with ruthlessness? Write your answer in the comments.
264 BC. Rome had conquered Italy. Every tribe, every city-state, every rival crushed. The legions marched with mechanical precision, discipline forged in blood, victory after victory on solid ground. But solid ground was about to disappear. Sicily. The island sat between Rome and Carthage like a prize both empires wanted. Rich, strategic, close to both powers. And when Rome decided to claim it, they triggered a conflict that would redefine their existence. The First Punic War began, and Rome immediately faced a problem that no amount of courage could solve: water. Romans were land creatures, farmers who became soldiers, men who understood dirt, stone, marching formations. They built roads, conquered hills, besieged fortresses. These were skills accumulated over generations. But the sea? The sea was alien, foreign, terrifying. Most Roman soldiers had never sailed before conscription. Many could not swim, a skill considered unnecessary for land warfare. The ocean represented chaos, unpredictability, death. Put a Roman legionary on a battlefield, and he was a precision killing machine, disciplined, organized, deadly. Put that same soldier on a ship, and he vomited over the rail, praying to gods he only half believed in. This was not psychological weakness. This was complete absence of maritime culture. Rome had no naval tradition, no shipyards of significance, no admirals worth the name. While Greek city-states had been perfecting trireme warfare for centuries, Rome had been farming. And now they needed to fight Carthage at sea. Carthage was everything Rome was not on water. A maritime superpower descended from Phoenician colonists, history's greatest sailors. They had controlled Mediterranean trade routes for 300 years. Their ships were legendary, fast, maneuverable, deadly. Carthaginian quinqueremes moved like predators, 5 rows of oars beating in perfect rhythm, bronze rams reinforcing the prow, crews that had trained together since childhood. These were not sailors, these were sea warriors, born to waves, raised on ships. And their tactics were brutal. Carthaginian naval warfare relied on maneuver and ramming. Approach at speed, turn sharply, ram the enemy hull at perfect angle, reverse before boarding could occur. Quick, clean, effective. This required skills Rome simply did not possess: navigation, reading wind and current, coordinating oar movements, timing turns with precision. Years of experience distilled into split-second decisions. Rome tried anyway, built ships copying Carthaginian designs, conscripted rowers, appointed commanders, sent fleets into Sicilian waters. The results were catastrophic. Early naval engagements were massacres. Carthaginian ships circled Roman vessels like wolves around livestock. Rams punched through hulls, ships sank, men drowned by the hundreds, weighed down by armor, screaming as water filled their lungs. After one early battle, Rome lost 17 ships. Carthage lost 0.
This was not war. This was slaughter. And if it continued, Rome would lose Sicily, lose control of Italian waters, lose the ability to supply armies, lose everything. Roman commanders gathered, discussed, debated. The problem was clear. Carthage was better at naval warfare, had more experience, better ships, superior skills. Traditional solution? Train harder, build more ships, learn to sail properly, close the experience gap through practice and time. But Rome did not have time, could not wait decades to match Carthaginian expertise. The war was now. Sicily was now. Victory or defeat would be decided in months, not generations. So Rome did what Rome always did when facing superior enemies. They changed the rules. A consul, history does not record which one, though some sources suggest Gaius Duilius, looked at the problem differently. Not how do we become better sailors, but how do we make sailing irrelevant? Because Rome had one overwhelming advantage. On land, in close combat, with shields and short swords, Roman legionaries were unmatched, disciplined, brutal, efficient. The gladius and scutum combination had proven unstoppable in infantry warfare. So the question became, how do we turn a naval battle into an infantry battle? The answer arrived in the form of a simple, brutal, revolutionary device. 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, wooden planks reinforced with iron, mounted on a rotating pole at the bow of each Roman ship. At the far end, a heavy iron spike, shaped like a raven's beak, sharp, heavy, deadly. They called it Corvus, the raven. When a Roman ship approached an enemy vessel from any angle, any direction, the Corvus dropped. The iron spike punched through the enemy deck, penetrated wood, locked the ships together. And across that narrow bridge, Roman legionaries charged. This was not naval combat. This was Rome imposing their terms on an alien environment, making the sea obey land warfare rules, denying Carthaginian advantages through sheer engineering audacity. Carthage had centuries of maritime tradition. Rome had 12 feet of wood and an iron spike. And that spike was about to change history. Because the Corvus was not just a weapon, it was a philosophy, a statement, a middle finger to the concept that some skills were unteachable, some advantages insurmountable. Rome could not learn to sail in time, so they made sailing irrelevant, turned every naval engagement into the kind of fight they already knew how to win. This was Roman genius, not matching the enemy's strengths, eliminating the battlefield where those strengths mattered. But genius has costs, and the Corvus, for all its brilliance, carried a dark price, one that would drown thousands of Roman sailors in storms they never saw coming. To understand why the Corvus was revolutionary, you must first understand what Rome was fighting against. Not just ships, not just sailors, an entire civilization built on water. Carthage was born from the sea, founded by Phoenician colonists from Tyre around 814 BC. The city had spent 9 centuries perfecting maritime dominance. While Rome was still a collection of hill villages, Carthage controlled trade routes from Gibraltar to Egypt. Their wealth was staggering. Every merchant ship crossing the Mediterranean paid tribute. Every port needed Carthaginian permission. Every island, Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, Malta, answered to Carthage. The Western Mediterranean was their private lake, and that wealth built the finest navy in the ancient world. Carthaginian quinqueremes were engineering marvels, lighter than equivalent Roman ships, faster, more maneuverable. The hull design minimized water resistance, the oar arrangement maximized speed. These were vessels refined through centuries of incremental improvements. But the real advantage was not the ships, it was the men who crewed them. Carthaginian sailors trained from childhood. Sons followed fathers into maritime service. Knowledge passed down through generations. How to read stars, how to predict weather, how to feel current changes through the ship's movement. This was not learned in training, this was absorbed, inherited, cultural DNA. And their combat tactics were beautiful, deadly poetry in motion. The primary Carthaginian naval tactic was dike plus, the breakthrough. A ship would accelerate to ramming speed, aim for gaps in enemy formations, punch through, turn sharply, and ram enemy vessels from the side or rear, the unprotected hull, the killing blow. This required perfect timing, perfect coordination, perfect understanding of your ship's capabilities and the enemy's position. A degree difference in angle meant the difference between crushing victory and catastrophic collision. Carthaginian crews executed this flawlessly. Their quinqueremes could turn on a single oar stroke, could reverse direction in seconds, could accelerate from still water to ramming speed faster than enemies could react.
Another tactic, periplus, the outflanking maneuver. Carthaginian ships would spread wide, use superior speed to circle enemy formations, attack from behind, like cavalry envelopment, but on water. Roman ships, slower and less maneuverable, could not counter, could not catch Carthaginian vessels, could not escape once targeted. And the ramming itself was art form. The bronze-reinforced prow, called a rostrum, was designed to penetrate below the waterline, punch a hole, let the sea do the killing. The Carthaginian crew would reverse immediately after impact, withdraw the ram before it got stuck, move to the next target. In battles, Carthaginian quinqueremes moved like sharks through blood, striking, withdrawing, striking again. Roman ships barely had time to react before water was flooding their holds. The psychological impact was devastating. Roman soldiers were brave, had faced Germanic barbarians, had fought Samnite warriors, had conquered the Italian peninsula through sheer determination and discipline. But this was different. In land battles, you saw your enemy, could charge him, could fight him directly. Courage mattered, discipline mattered. At sea, courage was irrelevant. You could not charge a ship that outmaneuvered you, could not fight an enemy that struck and vanished, could not maintain formation when your vessel was sinking and the sea was swallowing your comrades in armor. Roman casualties in early naval engagements were horrific, not just from combat, from drowning, from panic, from the sheer terror of fighting in an environment they did not understand against an enemy who did. Carthaginian admirals were confident, almost arrogant. They had reason to be. For 3 centuries, no power had seriously challenged their naval supremacy. Greek city-states tried occasionally, were beaten back. Egyptian fleets were formidable, but focused elsewhere. Rome? Rome was new to this. Amateurs, farmers playing sailor. This arrogance would cost them, but not yet. Because Carthage had one more advantage, strategic depth. They controlled North Africa, Spain, islands across the Mediterranean. Even if Rome won land battles in Sicily, Carthage could resupply by sea, could reinforce, could blockade, could starve Roman armies without ever facing them directly.
This was the strategic nightmare Rome faced. Could not win in Sicily without controlling sea approaches. Could not control sea approaches without defeating Carthaginian navy. Could not defeat Carthaginian navy with inferior ships and inexperienced crews. Every path led to the same conclusion. Rome was going to lose. Roman commanders knew this. Senate knew this. Even the soldiers vomiting over ship rails knew this. The mathematical reality was inescapable. Carthage was better at naval warfare, had been better for centuries, would remain better, unless the rules changed. And that is exactly what Rome decided to do. Not gradually, not through incremental improvement, through radical reimagining of what naval combat meant. Because Rome had spent centuries learning one lesson: when you cannot win the game, change the game. When the enemy has advantages you cannot match, deny those advantages meaning. The Corvus was born from this philosophy, not from maritime expertise, from Roman stubbornness, from the refusal to accept that some fields of battle were off limits, from the arrogant certainty that any problem had a solution if you thought about it correctly. Carthaginian ships were faster? Make speed irrelevant. Carthaginian sailors were more skilled? Make skill irrelevant. Naval combat required maneuverability? Eliminate maneuverability from the equation. Turn the sea into land. Turn naval battle into infantry battle. Impose Roman strengths where Carthaginian advantages meant nothing. This was not playing to opponents' weaknesses. This was rewriting the entire rulebook, making Carthage play a different game, one they had never trained for, never prepared for, never imagined possible. And the terrifying thing? It would work. But Carthage did not know that yet. They sailed into the Battle of Mylae expecting another easy victory, another opportunity to demonstrate their maritime supremacy, another day of watching Roman ships sink beneath Mediterranean waves. Instead, they were about to face something completely unprecedented, a weapon that made 9 centuries of naval tradition obsolete in a single afternoon. The Corvus was waiting, and with it, the death of everything Carthage thought they knew about warfare.
The breakthrough came not from admirals or sailors. It came from Roman military engineers, men who built siege towers, who designed aqueducts, who thought in terms of problems and solutions, not tradition and expertise. They sat in a command tent somewhere in Sicily, maps spread, ship designs sketched. The question hanging in the air: how do we fight Carthage? Every conventional answer led nowhere. Build more ships? Carthage would still outmaneuver them. Train crews longer? They did not have years. Hire Greek sailors? Not enough, and loyalty was questionable. Then someone asked a different question. Not how do we become better at naval warfare, but what are we actually good at? The answer was obvious. Infantry combat, close quarters, shield walls, the gladius. Roman legionnaires in formation were unstoppable, disciplined, brutal, mechanical. So make naval combat into infantry combat. The room went silent because it sounded insane. Ships moved. Water separated combatants. Naval warfare was about maneuver, about distance, about using the environment. You could not just walk across to the enemy ship, could you? The engineers started sketching. A bridge mounted on the ship's bow, long enough to reach enemy vessels, strong enough to support armored men. But how do you connect it? How do you ensure it stays attached to the enemy ship? Someone suggested a spike, a heavy iron spike at the bridge's end. Drop it onto the enemy deck, let it penetrate, lock the ships together, make escape impossible. The design took shape rapidly. 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, wooden planks reinforced with iron bands, mounted on a vertical pole that could rotate 360 degrees. The spike at the end, shaped like a raven's beak, giving the device its name, Corvus, the raven. Simple, brutal, elegant.
But the true genius was conceptual, not mechanical. Rome was not trying to beat Carthage at their own game. Rome was forcing Carthage to play Rome's game. Carthaginian advantage was speed and maneuver. Corvus eliminated both. Lock ships together and speed means nothing. Lock ships together and maneuver is impossible. Lock ships together and suddenly it is not naval combat anymore. It is infantry combat on floating platforms, and Rome always won infantry combat. This mentality, this refusal to accept disadvantage, this insistence on redefining the battlefield was quintessentially Roman. They did it with roads through mountains, with bridges across rivers, with siege weapons against impossible walls. Why should the sea be different? The Corvus was tested quietly, small scale, a few ships. Enemy vessels were scarce near Roman-controlled ports, so they practiced on captured wrecks. Trained legionaries to cross the narrow bridge, shields up, maintaining formation even on wood suspended over water. It worked. Clumsy at first, men fell, hesitated, but Roman discipline prevailed. They drilled, repeated, made it instinct. And then came the order, equip the fleet. Every ship gets a Corvus, every crew trains boarding tactics. Rome was about to introduce Carthage to a completely new kind of warfare, one Carthage had never imagined, never prepared for, never thought possible. Because who builds a boarding bridge on a warship? Who turns naval combat into infantry assault? Who looks at the sea and decides, no, this is land now? Rome, that is who. The first test would be Mylae, and Carthage was sailing straight into it.
Before we watch it destroy Carthaginian supremacy, understand what the Corvus actually was, not metaphorically, physically, mechanically. Picture a Roman quinquereme, standard warship, 5 rows of oars, approximately 130 feet long, crew of 300. But now, mounted at the bow, something unprecedented. A vertical pole, about 12 feet tall, solidly anchored to the ship's deck, reinforced, weight-bearing. On this pole, a horizontal bridge, 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, constructed from wooden planks, oak, heavy and strong, iron bands reinforcing the structure. At the far end, the defining feature, a heavy iron spike, 2 feet long, pointed, shaped like a raven's beak, hence Corvus. The bridge could rotate around the pole, full 360 degrees, could face any direction, could drop onto enemy ships approaching from front, sides, even rear. No safe angle of approach existed. The mechanism was simple, pulleys and ropes. Crew could raise the Corvus to vertical position, standing upright like a mast. In this position, it did not interfere with sailing, did not catch wind, just waited. When enemy ship approached, any direction, any angle, crew released the mechanism. Gravity did the work. The Corvus swung down, 12 feet of reinforced wood and iron falling like a hammer. The spike hit first, punched through enemy deck planking. The weight behind it, hundreds of pounds of wood and iron, plus gravitational acceleration, drove deep, 3 feet, 4 feet, penetrating into the hull structure itself. And now, both ships were locked, connected. The Corvus acted as bridge and anchor simultaneously. The spike embedded so deeply that pulling free was nearly impossible. The enemy ship was trapped.
Across this bridge, 4 feet wide, 12 feet long, Roman legionaries charged. Not sailors trying to board, soldiers, trained infantry, men who had spent years drilling formation combat. Shields forward, scutum, the large rectangular Roman shield protecting the entire body. Gladius drawn, the short sword perfect for stabbing in close quarters. Formation maintained even on the narrow bridge. This was not desperate boarding action. This was organized infantry assault, systematic, disciplined, exactly what legionaries trained for, just happening on ships instead of land. The Corvus weighed approximately 1,000 pounds. Heavy. This was not accident. The weight helped drive the spike deep, helped keep the bridge stable once dropped, made it nearly impossible for enemy crew to dislodge. But this weight had consequences, made Roman ships bow-heavy, less stable in rough seas, more likely to capsize in storms. These were not trivial problems, would kill thousands of Romans later. For now, though, the Corvus was perfect solution to impossible problem. It negated every Carthaginian advantage. Speed? Irrelevant once locked. Maneuverability? Impossible when connected. Naval expertise? Worthless in sword-to-sword combat. This was not just a weapon. This was Rome looking at naval warfare and saying, "No, we refuse. We will fight our way, on our terms, with our skills." The Corvus was 12 feet of wood and iron, but symbolically, it was Rome's absolute refusal to accept limitations, to play by someone else's rules, to admit defeat. And in 260 BC at Mylae, Carthage was about to learn what that refusal looked like. 260 BC, morning. Waters off Mylae, Sicily. The Carthaginian fleet approached confidently. 150 quinqueremes. Admiral Hannibal Gisco commanding. He saw the Roman fleet ahead. 130 ships. Clumsy, poorly sailed, easy prey. Gisco ordered attack formation, standard tactics, approach at speed, ram, withdraw, repeat. His crews had done this 1,000 times. Today would be no different. The Carthaginian quinqueremes surged forward, oars beating in perfect rhythm, bronze rams gleaming. These were predators approaching livestock. Roman ships waited, seemingly paralyzed, crews inexperienced, formation ragged. Everything confirmed Carthaginian expectations, amateurs about to be slaughtered. Then the Romans did something strange. As Carthaginian ships closed distance, wooden structures on Roman bows began moving, rising, no, falling, swinging down toward the water. What were those? The first Carthaginian quinquereme closed to ramming distance, perfect angle, perfect speed, bronze prow aimed at Roman hull, impact in seconds. The Corvus dropped. 12 feet of oak and iron swung down. Gravity accelerated it. The Raven's beak spike hit the Carthaginian deck, punched through planking, embedded deep into the hull structure. The ships locked, bound together, connected by a bridge that had not existed 5 seconds ago. Carthaginian crews froze, confused. This was not supposed to happen. Naval combat did not work this way. Ships rammed, ships maneuvered. Ships did not connect like this. Roman legionnaires did not hesitate. 30 soldiers, shields locked, formation tight. They charged across the Corvus, boots hammering wood, 4 feet wide, 12 feet long, water visible between the planks. Did not matter. They hit the Carthaginian deck like an armored fist, shields forward, pushing, creating space. Behind the shield wall, gladii stabbing, short, efficient, brutal. Carthaginian sailors fought back. They carried weapons for anti-boarding defense, spears, swords, but they were sailors, not soldiers, not trained for shield wall combat, not prepared for Roman close-quarters discipline. The legionaries advanced systematically, shield wall moving forward, stabbing anything in reach. No heroics, no individual combat, just mechanical violence, pushing, killing, advancing. Within 3 minutes, the Carthaginian ship was taken, crew dead or surrendered, Roman standard raised. And this was happening across the entire battle. Corvus after Corvus dropping, ship after ship locking, legionaries swarming across, Carthaginian vessels captured faster than they could react.
Gisco watched in horror. His fleet was being dismantled, not by better sailing, not by superior ramming, by— what even was this? Some kind of mobile bridge, turning his ships into enemy boarding platforms? Carthaginian captains tried to adapt, approached from behind where Corvus could not reach, but the device rotated, swung to face them, dropped anyway. No safe angle existed. Others tried to row backward, escape before the Corvus fell, but Roman timing was good. The spike caught them anyway, and once caught, pulling free was impossible. The weight, the penetration, the angle, all worked against escape. Some Carthaginian crews tried cutting the Corvus free, axes against reinforced oak and iron. Too slow. Legionaries were already crossing, already killing, already taking the ship. The Battle of Mylae lasted 3 hours. When it ended, Carthage had lost 50 ships, captured or sunk. Rome lost 0. Not because Romans became better sailors, because sailing stopped mattering. The Corvus turned every engagement into the kind of fight Rome always won. Naval warfare had just been reinvented, and Carthage had no answer. After Mylae, Carthage was in shock. 50 ships gone. A fleet that had dominated the Mediterranean for centuries, defeated by farmers with a wooden bridge. The psychological impact was devastating. Carthaginian naval supremacy was not just military fact, it was identity, culture, the foundation of their empire, and Rome had shattered it in one afternoon. But more than pride was broken, strategy itself had changed. Every Carthaginian tactical advantage, centuries of accumulated knowledge, refined techniques, perfected maneuvers, meant nothing. Speed? Irrelevant when ships locked together. Maneuverability? Impossible when connected by iron spike. Ramming expertise? Useless when the enemy wanted you close. Carthaginian admirals tried to adapt, developed counter-tactics, avoid close engagement, strike from distance, use fire ships, anything to prevent the Corvus from dropping. It did not work. Roman fleets were everywhere, aggressive, hunting. The Corvus gave them confidence, made them dangerous, turned defensive prey into attacking predators. Within 2 years, Rome won multiple major naval victories: Cape Ecnomus, Tyndaris, Sulci. Each battle the same pattern: Carthaginian ships trapped, locked, boarded, captured. Mediterranean balance shifted, trade routes changed hands, islands fell to Rome. Coastal cities that relied on Carthaginian protection found themselves vulnerable. The naval power structure, stable for 3 centuries, collapsed. But the real revolution was conceptual. Rome proved that naval warfare was not mystical art, not reserved for maritime cultures, not dependent on generations of accumulated knowledge. Naval warfare was problem, and problems had solutions: engineering solutions, tactical solutions, solutions that denied the opponent's advantages rather than matching them. This changed how civilizations thought about military power. Before Rome, land empires accepted naval limitations, could not challenge sea powers, different domains, different rules. Rome said no, one set of rules, our rules. We bring our advantages to your domain. We force you to fight our way. This philosophy would echo through military history. When facing superior enemy, do not try to match their strengths. Deny those strengths relevance. Change the battlefield. Rewrite the rules. The Corvus was crude, unsophisticated, inelegant. Carthaginian naval theorists probably mocked it initially. A boarding ramp? How primitive. But it worked so well that within a decade, Rome controlled more Mediterranean coastline than Carthage. Worked so well that Carthaginian naval dominance, foundation of their empire, crumbled. And the message to every other power was clear. Rome adapts. Rome innovates. Rome wins not by playing your game, but by changing the game itself. This made Rome terrifying, not because they were better warriors, because they refused to accept disadvantage, refused to acknowledge some battles were unwinnable, refused to play by existing rules. Fighting Rome meant they would find your strength, study it, then engineer it away, replace it with their own advantages, make you fight on their terms, and on their terms, Rome always won. The Corvus embodied this mentality perfectly. 12 feet of wood that said, "We do not care about your centuries of tradition. We do not care about your expertise. We do not care about your advantages. We will impose our reality on yours. And if you cannot adapt faster than we innovate, you will lose." Carthage could not adapt fast enough. The Corvus had rewritten naval warfare, and in that new version, Rome was already expert.
Victory has costs, and the Corvus, brilliant as it was, carried a price written in drowned men and shattered ships. The device weighed over 1,000 pounds. Mounted at the bow, this created fundamental stability problem, made Roman ships bow-heavy, changed their center of gravity, made them less stable in rough water. In calm Mediterranean conditions, this was manageable. Ships sailed fine, fought fine, the Corvus worked. But the Mediterranean is not always calm. 255 BC, a Roman fleet returning from Africa. 360 ships, 20,000 soldiers, cargo holds filled with plunder and prisoners, a successful campaign ending, men dreaming of home. Then the weather changed. Mediterranean storms appear without warning. Clear sky becomes black in minutes. Calm water transforms into mountains. Wind shifts direction violently. These are killer storms. Ancient sailors feared them more than any enemy. The Roman fleet was caught exposed. Open water, no harbor nearby, nowhere to shelter. Experienced sailors would have recognized signs, would have prepared, secured cargo, adjusted sail, taken precautions. Roman crews were not experienced sailors. They panicked, made wrong decisions, tried to outrun the storm instead of riding it. Fatal mistake. And the Corvus made everything worse. The bow-heavy design meant ships rode lower in water. Waves crashed over decks. The rotating mechanism caught wind, created drag, destabilized vessels further. Ships began capsizing, not from combat, from engineering. The same device that won battles was now killing Romans by the thousands. 360 ships entered that storm. Fewer than 100 emerged. 260 vessels sank. 20,000 men drowned. The worst naval disaster in ancient history, possibly in all history until modern era. Rome lost more men to that single storm than to all Carthaginian battles combined. But here is what separates Rome from other powers. They rebuilt, did not quit, did not abandon naval warfare, built new ships, trained new crews, continued fighting. However, they also learned, recognized the Corvus problem. The device won battles, but endangered ships in bad weather. Roman engineers began modifications, made lighter versions. Some fleets removed Corvus entirely, accepted they needed to actually learn sailing, actually develop naval expertise beyond the boarding bridge. By 241 BC, the final naval battle at Aegates Islands, many Roman ships no longer carried Corvus. They fought using traditional ramming tactics and won, because by then Rome had accumulated real maritime experience. The Corvus had been a crutch, necessary at first, but ultimately temporary, a bridge between incompetence and expertise, a tool that gave Rome time to learn.
This was the Corvus's true genius, not that it won wars, but that it bought time, let Rome compete while learning, allowed them to survive long enough to become legitimate naval power. The price was steep. Thousands drowned, fleets destroyed, resources wasted. But Rome considered it acceptable cost because the alternative was losing to Carthage, losing Sicily, losing control of Italian waters, losing everything. So Rome paid in blood, paid in storms, paid in ships, but gained the Mediterranean, gained naval expertise, gained empire. The Corvus was abandoned eventually, but the lessons remained. When facing superior enemy, innovate. When lacking expertise, engineer advantage. When unable to learn fast enough, change the rules. And accept the price, because victory is never free.
We return to the question, what made Rome master of the Mediterranean? Not the Corvus itself. The device was eventually abandoned, removed from ships, relegated to history. But what the Corvus represented, that never died. Rome won because they refused to accept limitations, refused to believe some battles were unwinnable, refused to play by rules that disadvantaged them. Carthage had centuries of naval tradition. Rome had audacity, and audacity, properly applied, beats tradition. This was Rome's defining characteristic, not superior soldiers. Many cultures had brave warriors. Not better equipment. Greek armor was excellent. Celtic swords were fine. Not greater numbers. Rome was often outnumbered. What Rome had was adaptability, the ability to face a superior enemy, analyze the problem, and engineer a solution. To look at disadvantage and ask, how do we make this irrelevant? The Corvus embodied this perfectly. Carthage's advantage was naval skill. Eliminate the need for naval skill. Turn sea battles into land battles. Impose Roman strengths where Carthaginian advantages meant nothing. This philosophy conquered the Mediterranean, then Gaul, then Britain, then the known world. Every time Rome faced superior enemy, better cavalry, better archers, better ships, same response. Change the battlefield, deny their advantages, fight on Roman terms. This is why Rome became empire while other powerful states did not. Not because Romans were better warriors, because they were better problem solvers, better engineers, better at systematic thinking. Sparta had superior infantry, never became empire. Why? Because when facing cavalry or ships, Spartans had no answer, could not adapt, could not engineer solutions to problems outside infantry warfare. Athens had superior navy, never became land empire. Why? Because when forced to fight on land, Athenians lacked Rome's brutal adaptability, could not force land warfare into naval terms. Rome did both, turned sea into land with the Corvus, turned enemy cavalry advantage into liability with terrain choice and fortifications, turned superior enemy numbers into disadvantage through discipline and tactics. This was not just military genius, this was philosophical approach to conflict, the belief that any problem has solution if you think correctly, that disadvantage is not destiny, that rules are suggestions, not laws. The Corvus was 12 feet of wood and iron, but symbolically, it was Rome's declaration, we do not accept your reality, we create our own. 2,000 years later, military theorists still study this approach. When the United States faced superior Soviet tank numbers in Cold War, did they build more tanks? No. They developed technology that made tank numbers irrelevant, changed the battlefield. When insurgents faced superior conventional forces in modern warfare, did they try matching that strength? No. They changed warfare itself, made conventional advantages meaningless. This is Corvus thinking,
When the enemy is stronger, change what strength means. Rome's legacy is not the Corvus device, it is the Corvus philosophy. The understanding that warfare is not just courage and weapons, it is problem-solving, engineering, strategic thinking about how to deny enemy advantages rather than matching them. The Mediterranean became Roman not because Romans were destined for it, because they refused to accept they were not. The Corvus was one tool, one solution, one moment when Rome looked at impossible problem and said, "No, we refuse. We will change reality instead." And changed it they did. The farmers who feared water became masters of the sea, not by learning the sea, by making the sea irrelevant. This was Rome. This was the Corvus. This was genius written in wood, iron, and absolute refusal to lose.